and thank you all for coming to the museum on this very strange weather night. It's going to be a really exciting evening. If you have not done so, please turn off cell phones. And I'd like to begin by welcoming our guests tonight, Gerardo Montiel-Klint and Fernando Montiel-Klint. And I'd also like to introduce Rosario Laird, who is a board member at SAMA and a volunteer docent, and very fluent in Spanish. So Rosario is on stage with us tonight to assist if there's any communication difficulty in me understanding the brothers understanding me, or you understanding the brothers. So thank you, Rosario, for joining us. Before we begin, I'd like to once again say how privileged and happy we are to participate for the 4th year in a row in Photo Septiembre USA, which this exhibition and conversation are part of. And I'd like to acknowledge Michael Mell and Ann Kinzer for their incredible work on Photo Septiembre USA. I'd also like to acknowledge the generous sponsors of the exhibition, including the conversation, the Instituto Cultural de Mexico, and their director, Gabriela Franco Palafox, is with us tonight. Thank you so much. We're also grateful for the support of the City of San Antonio Office of Cultural Affairs and to Felix Padron for his efforts on our behalf. We're grateful to SAMA Contemporaries. Those of you who are members of SAMA Contemporaries, your membership dollars help support tonight's program, so we really are grateful for your participation. And also the Texas Commission on the Arts, which helps support the exhibition No Escape, the photographs of the brothers Montiel-Klint. So without further ado, we're going to go through some images and discuss them with Gerardo and Fernando. And we'll begin with Gerardo, who is the elder of the two. I should mention Gerardo is in his early 40s and Fernando is in his early 30s. So while they share the same parents, they are actually 10 years apart in age. So Gerardo, since you were the first one to enter the universe, and we have some pictures of you here with your parents, tell us a little bit about your family background and your early years.
Yeah, well, my father is a doctor, he's a psychiatrist, and he met my mother in the late 50s, and they then married. And my mother was the first generation of her mother was French, and his father was German. So they arrived to Mexico, and my mother was the first generation born in Mexico. But she has all the European culture, and it was a strange mixture for me at that time, because in certain way I was with some European kind of education, and for another part, the Mexican culture. So it was
bicultural then.
Bicultural in certain way, yeah. And at that time, my mother was, she didn't want me to speak German, because she thought it was more important to speak English, although I don't do it very well, but she thought it was more important to speak English than to speak German. And that type of things were really not... My grandfather didn't like that type of things. He was more into like the German culture. He has to speak German and whatever. And there's a very important school in Mexico City that is called the Alexander von Humboldt School. That is a German school. And my mother studied there. My uncle also. And she decided not to get me into that school, just in a bilingual school that is called Alexander Bain. So it was more into that type of things. And as a kid, I was always had a lot of travels with my parents all around Mexico. We used to go, I don't know, to the beach like 2 or 3 times a year. And that's me. Again, here is a strange thing. I'm in the bottom pictures. My father was a director of a reclusorio, that's called. It's kind of it was in the mid-70s, and it was just for criminals who were who had trouble with their that they were mental disorders. So it was a jail without jails, without
Prison bars.
prison bars. And for example, in the bottom, that's me breaking a piñata, and all the inmates are behind me with my father, and that's the tower where they are seeing everyone. And they used to, my mother liked to do a lot of parties in my house, and usually they were like costume parties, and I used to dress as my parents and that party. You know, that's kind of the things that we were doing at the family, you know, as a child.
Okay. Fernando, 10 years later.
Yes.
So tell us about your early life.
Well, my early life, when I was born, my mother died. So all my contact with my family, well, with my father, you will see in the pictures. So I have a different kind of childhood. It's very lovely, and a lot of all the family are very together.
Mm-hmm.
No? These are pictures when I was very little. Some are in the pyramids or in the house. I'm like 13, 14 years old. So it's like a normal every day in life in my life.
Mm-hmm. So here's some shots of you together then as brothers. What was it like being brothers 10 years apart in age?
At
when you were
first, it
children?
was a little bit like there was too much
Difference.
distance, you know. So when I was 10, he was just 1 year old, so it was difficult for me to play with him. And and I think in certain way that's what I think, that he saw me like a role model in certain way, like I want to be like my brother. I think that's what I think, because I wanted to. I just used to do certain things, and Fernando was trying to do the same things when he was a little kid.
Is that true? Did you see him as a role model?
Yeah, I think because they are like the only brother that I have, and I work and play every day, and I see like him and my father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's the first person, because my father goes to work, and the only person that I have contact every day is my
So
my
what's
brother.
going on in some of these photographs?
For example, also in the bottom, we are in the sea, and that was the first time I had done scuba diving. And Fernando, I think he was 4 years old, and he wanted also to do scuba diving, and they didn't let him because he was too small. And in the other ones, we are with cousins. And in the top, we are in the 24th of December, which is also my birthday. So we used to celebrate, the three of us. It was Fernando, me, and my father. It was more, it was that type of strange things. In Mexico, usually Mexican families gather together for Christmas. So there can be, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 people in 50. I don't know. It's a lot of people on the family. And we had the other part of our how we were, our mother's culture, and it was just the people who live in the house. So that's was our Christmas. Some people around us said to us that that was weird, or that was
boring.
So boring, you know. And for us, it was really nice to be the three of us, and
maybe the dogs
making the dinner,
passing the time together all day, trying to cooking the turkey. And
yeah. So we also learned to cook. We also learned to put the Christmas tree, and it was like a different family. It was a different childhood, but we.
Did you ever get into fights with each other when?
Yeah,
you were
for sure.
Yeah.
Even today. Even today. But that's I think that's one of the positive things of being the older and the stronger. No, that's.
And here you are as adult brothers. So tell us a little bit about how you are now. I mean, you have a working relationship. You want to tell us a little bit about that? About your day job?
Yeah, now the day job, it's both are making photography a long time ago, and then maybe 5, 6 years old, we decide to come together and make a business. together, and because all our lives we are working separately, and now we are working together. So it's nice, like a different kind of
And tell the audience what what is your job? What do you do?
What we do is an advertising photography agency. So we work for musicians, for cars, so that's our daily life as a business. So, but we try to make really creative things. So we have I don't know, clients like Volkswagen or I don't know, or musicians. We work for Universal or for. That's our type of clients, but we saw that as just a creative process,
Yes.
but it's not our main
Objective.
Yeah, our main interest. Our main interest is to do ourselves, our personal work, no? And I think that's nice in our work that although we see each other daily, we have our interest is into art photography. That's what we care more about seeing, going to
So
exhibitions.
the other is what we call the bread and butter.
Yeah. So that's what we do, and sometimes we had traveled together and working both of us, and it's strange because although we are not twins, because we are 10 years apart, sometimes we have like this kind of communication without talking that it's kind of strange, and sometimes people think that that's weird because it's, David have seen this. Sometimes Fernando is in the other part of the table and I'm in the other part of the table, and we ask for the same thing to eat. No?
At a restaurant, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of weird things. And also when we are working, I just have to see him and just with the hand, and he knows where to put a light or what is going wrong, or the other way. He also just saw me and make a gesture with his hand, and I change things that I know that they're not working because he's just with his hand. He's just telling me something. No? So it's kind of weird. No, that's
good.
And here you are working
Yes.
in the studio.
Everyday studio. Yeah, it's making some advertising, doing some shoots in locations and in the studio. So we are all the time making, trying to be more fun at work too. So not so serious.
Do you have many employees who work with you, or are you just the two of you?
We're the two of us. In the studio we have an assistant and a producer. But for us, there work a lot of people. That could be makeup artists, models, and art managers. There are a lot of people who works for us, but it has to do for certain projects. What I want to tell you about that's nice about the two of us is that I am the grumpy one and he's the funny one, and so that's
that explains a lot. Now you know your artwork.
Yeah. So usually people is getting laugh with. You can see in the pictures. Fernando's always doing funny things and whatever, and I'm always like, let's do this and that one. I have like a more mythology, or more, you know. So that's how we
work, and I think it's a very good compliment. Very good.
And that's also funny with the clients, because I know when people call to the studio and they ask for me, is for complaint or for something of work. And when they call for Fernando, I know because they wanted to invite him for parties or for.
There is a generation gap, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Gerardo, now we're going to look at the various bodies of work that you've done in your artwork, in your professional art photography, as opposed to the ad agency. So, and that will be the focus, of course, of our conversation. So let's begin with this series. And I can't read the text from here, so you'll have to, if it's necessary, but the audience can read it. But tell it, this was one of your first bodies of work.
Yeah, that's my first body of work. I studied product design. I worked as a product designer for certain years, but I knew that photography was my true passion. And So I began really late into what Mexican photographers began. Usually Mexican photographers began at 20, 22, 24. I began doing photography as a main thing until my 27, when I was 27, almost 28 years. So I was a little bit old, for beginning into photography, because I have done the product design things before. And as I was working on plastic factory and doing molds and whatever, I knew that was not what was meant to be my life. I wanted to do photography, but in certain way was a kind of strange, because I have to leave all my studies and whatever to do photography what I really liked. And in this project, I was very much into the unconscious and on the dream. So I tried to represent my own dream. I forget. I tried to represent not my dreams. I tried to represent how human has confronted the dream, since we, as a primitive, when we were in caves, we thought that our soul was walking around while we were asleep. Since then, to psychoanalytical studies and theories, so I tried to mix everything, and I use the ocean as a part of our unconscious. So the fish that I used to, or the fishes I used to do at my stages or my constructions, were more into the unconscious, of the unknown, of what is behind the sea.
What was your process for composing these compositions?
At first, I used to work in my own room where I lived. I have to make all my put my stage. I put away the bed and whatever. And at that time, I was working full time at doing designs for kitchen designs and that type of things. So I work at night because I also have insomnia. It's called
insomnia.
Yeah, I suffer from that a lot. So usually I used to get to home at night, and what I did is make my scenario, take the picture, develop it, and also print it the same day. I was like very obsessed with that. Yeah, so I used to used to sleep like 1 or 2 hours and go to work and get back to my other life, that it was like a product designer. So what I did is in this type of things is I wanted to be photography, but not resemble to photography. I don't know if it's I wanted to be more near to engraves or painting, or not because I don't think about a photography as a medium, but I wanted to represent the dream. So for me, it was important not to see dreams, something that was representing a dream, but like a something more of an image of our unconscious. That was I was trying to approach.
Okay.
Well, that was my first color theory and the series, and I have to get back to my childhood. I think that most of the work I have done until now has to do on how I was raised. As I told you before, my father was is a psychiatrist, and he was a director of this reclusorio. And at that point, I think I was 7 years old, or maybe 8 years old, when I met the first. It's not a serial killer. It's like a multi-homicida. I don't know the term in English. Multiple killer. You know, that it's called. He was called Gregorio Cárdenas. That it's called Goyo Cárdenas, and he was at that reclusorio. It was just a few years before he was getting out, and he was a close friend with my father. And my father. Now people say to me that my father was. Crazy, because he used to take me to these places, and he made me talk with Gregorio Cárdenas, and he was talking, and when I was like 7 years old, I was in the car with my father, I remember very well, and I said, how can Gregorio, or how can Goyito, because that's how I knew him, I don't know, he was in the his late 60s, how can Goyito be in the jail? And he says, because he killed some women, and I said, why? Because he says, that he loved them so much that he wanted to kill them to revivirlas, is like to
resuscitate them.
To resuscitate them with a chemical he was designing. Obviously, this never happened, no? So they found the women in his own garden, but that story for me was like something so like fantasy, and I couldn't.
Did it frighten you at all?
No, for me it was the opposite. I thought that he was so fragile because I'm telling you that he was in his late 60s, and he was really thin with a small mustache and with his glasses, and he was really kind, no? And he used to give me candies. So I was really not close to him, but it was a figure that it was the opposite of my grandfather. My grandfather was so straight, everything is, men do not kiss other men in the cheek. He was like, no? And Goyito, he always sit me on his lap, and he was laughing with me, and so it was a nice relation for me. So that story, what I try to do in this series is to work in passionate crimes. It's like I have a lot of
passion.
Crimes of passion, and it's pistas. ¿Cómo se dice pistas?
Clues.
I'm leaving clues. Certain clues. I want the spectator to reach the meaning of these images, where this type of if you see almost all these two images, the women are really close looking. No, they look alike, and that's the type of obsessions that killers have. What I wanted to do is to penetrate more in the unconscious. What are the barriers or the frontiers that you can cross when you have certain illness or whatever, or a mental disorder that most of us fortunately don't have, don't pass, no? So that's what I tried to do, and in certain way I was trying to make a homage to these painters that do the Madonnas, no? That in certain way they were elevating the women they were painting to something more like illuminating women, no? So in certain way, what this is like a hard evidence. I don't know how to tell it, but the 80%, almost over between the 70 and 80% of the assassins or the killers, these type of killers, usually take pictures or video of